The marketplace was alive with noise and movement. Smoke from cooking fires curled into the air, traders argued over prices, and children darted between stalls. Into this busy scene, a plain sedan rolled quietly. No sirens, no motorcade, just President Ibrahim Traoré stepping out with 2 guards while his advance team blended unnoticed among the crowd. The sun burned over Ouagadougou's central market, and the air carried the thick smells of dried fish, shea butter, charcoal, and dust. Vendors called in more and dioula, women balanced heavy basins on their heads, and shoppers laughed even as the heat pressed down. In his soldier's uniform, Ibrahim moved calmly through the bustle. He stopped to shake hands, ask about seeds and rainfall, and listen closely to farmers and traders. In that moment, he thought, "This is the Burkina Faso I fight for, strong, proud, alive." But at one fabric stall his steps slowed. Sitting against a cracked wall was an older woman in tattered clothes, a small metal cup trembling in her hands. She was humming softly, her head tilted the way she always used to when deep in thought. One of his guards leaned in.
"Excellency, is something wrong?"
Ibrahim said nothing. A wave of memory crashed over him, gentle hands braiding his hair before school, lullabies in Moray, the smell of millet flour in her wrapper. He had been only 4 when his mother disappeared. Now at 38 he was seeing the unthinkable. The woman lifted her face. For a moment the market's noise fell away. Ibrahim saw the gentle curve of her lips, the crescent scar above her wrist, the very scar his little fingers had once traced. She touched her collarbone, her old nervous habit, and hummed a tune he knew instantly. The Baobab song. His lips trembled. "Mama," her humming stopped. She stared as though daylight itself had conjured a ghost. "Stand easy," Ibrahim told his guards quietly. "She's no threat." But the world had already blurred. To him, there was only this fragile face, the mother he had mourned but never stopped longing for. He watched as she broke her last piece of bread in half and handed it to an old man whose jaw shook with hunger. That was her way. Even now she gave away what little she had. She sat near the edge of the market, surviving on a fragile community of the forgotten, where people gave when they could and trusted help might come back when they had nothing. All these years I fought colonial systems in conference halls, he thought, while she fought for her life here in the dust. Slowly he crossed toward her. His guards tensed, but he motioned for them to stay back. In Moray, his voice broke as he whispered, "Excuse me, Mama, may I sit?" Her eyes snapped up, wary, hardened by years of betrayal. He lowered himself to the ground anyway, not caring about the dirt on his knees. "Do you remember?" he asked gently. "A little boy who sang the Baobab song with you at night?" Her hand trembled as she raised it halfway to his face. Her breathing caught. Then, with a voice cracked from years of silence, "My son." The words shattered the lock of decades. His eyes blurred. "Yes, Mama, it's really me." He held out his scarred palm. She hesitated, then laid her frail hand against his. The touch was lightning and truth.
"I never stopped looking for you," she sobbed.
"And I never stopped needing you," he replied thickly. For that moment, there were no cameras, no titles, no uniform, only a son kneeling in the dust, holding his mother's hand. She began to tell her story, her words heavy with years of pain. "After your father died, everything collapsed. In 1991, the drought destroyed our farm in Koudougou. With nothing left, I came to the city with only hope. I carried water until my shoulders bled, scrubbed floors that weren't mine, begged landlords for mercy when I couldn't pay. Then one employer demanded things I would never give. I refused.
I lost my only steady job."
From then, every door closed. Ibrahim's throat tightened. "What did you do then, Mama?"
"I fought," she whispered, clutching his hand.
"But social services came. They said they would take you. I thought if another family kept you only for a little while, you would eat and sleep.
I promised I'd come back."
But weeks became months, months became years. I searched schools, asked neighbors, nothing. Your new family moved, no one told me where.
Every night I ask God, is he warm? Does he have shoes? Does he remember my voice?
Ibrahim leaned close until their foreheads touched. I remembered, Mama, every song, every story.
I saw you once on a small TV, she whispered, tears filling her eyes.
A young captain, full of fire.
I told myself that fire came from me.
But I feared, you, a man followed by a nation, how could you recognize a woman with a begging cup?
I thought you'd hate me.
His voice broke. Hate you? Mama, you gave me everything. You gave me life. Who I am began with you. Her thin fingers traced the scar above his eyebrow. My beautiful boy, she murmured in Moore, again and again, as if learning his face anew. The crowd had started to slow. Whispers rippled. People were taking photos. Ibrahim ignored them, pulling her into his arms. He breathed in the faint scent of shea butter. She wept apologies into his chest. He held her tightly. You planted everything in me, he whispered. Your stories, your teachings about unity.
You're the reason I stand today.
She smiled faintly, then untied a small leather pouch from around her neck. Her hands shook as she loosened the stiff knots.
Inside there was a faded ribbon and a tiny white button. From your baby shirt, she said through tears.
So I would never forget your laugh.
His breath caught.
He closed her hand around the pouch. Then let's never lose each other again. But flashes of phones came from the edges of the market. A guard's radio clicked. The advance team signaled. The swelling crowd became dangerous. Sir, we need to move, Captain Andrao urged. Her safety is now at risk. Ibrahim swallowed hard. His heart wanted to stay, but he nodded.
5 more minutes, no less.
And so, with his guards forming a human wall, he led her gently to a side street and into an unmarked pickup. That evening, a discreet clinic welcomed her. Dr. Aminata Sawadogo checked her pulse. Dehydration, anemia, exhaustion, she said softly. She needs rest and food. His mother tried to rise.
I can go home.
You will, Aminata promised gently. But after one night here, Ibrahim stayed the whole night by her side, uniform jacket folded on a chair. The next morning he spoke quietly. You can live at the presidential residence if you want, or we'll find another place. Whatever gives you peace. She touched the worn pouch at her neck. My son, the palace is yours, but I want to open a door of my own. He smiled through the sting in his chest. Then we'll do that. Within 2 days, he transformed her life, not with state funds, but with his own savings and the help of close friends. Day 1, she regained strength at the clinic. Day 2, a modest apartment in Sector 15 was secured under trusted names, her location known only to a few. Day 3, safety was arranged, a nurse visiting weekly, a simple phone by her bed, 2 plainclothes officers nearby, but never invasive. The apartment was simple but warm. The fridge was filled sensibly with millet, fish, vegetables and fruit. In the small garden, she insisted on planting mint and basil with her own hands. Before she moved in, Ibrahim inspected every corner. He checked locks, doors and windows himself. Then he stood quietly as if listening and said to his aide, it must feel like a home, not a safe house. For companionship, he asked someone he trusted. Tanti Mariam, a calm widow from his circle. She lived nearby and could drop in naturally with tea or talk. Not a guard, not an official, just a neighbor she could lean on. At last, after decades of hunger and hardship, she stepped through a door that belonged to her. Each evening, Ibrahim would arrive quietly, car left blocks away, cap pulled low. Inside that apartment, at the wooden table, he was no longer president of Burkina Faso. He was simply her son. At first, she needed rest. He sat close as she drifted between silence and stories of survival. By the 2nd week, her color was back. On the 10th day, she smiled and insisted, let me cook for you at least once. He laughed and surrendered, and from then on, their quiet dinners became sacred. They ate 2 and light soup, telling stories of the past, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. She teased him often. At last, I can mother you again. But news of their reunion spread. A fabric seller mentioned it. Then a neighbor. Before long, blurry photos filled phones. him kneeling in the market, holding her hand. The story could not be buried. Women raising children alone saw their own hardship in hers. Young men whispered to each other, "If he rose from nothing, so can we." Elders nodded knowingly, saying poverty had torn families apart before. At dusk, griots retold the story in courtyards. On Radio Zudo's Family Hour, callers wept over their own lost children. Preachers used it as an example of love and duty. Across Burkina Faso, walls and signs carried the words, "Our president, our brother." Women's cooperatives collected coins for homeless mothers. Critics tried to distort the story, but few paid attention. What began as one man kneeling before his mother became a national conversation about dignity, sacrifice, and love. 6 months later, every Wednesday, her apartment became a refuge. Women arrived with all kinds of troubles: a widow holding a torn eviction notice, a teenage mother clutching her baby and asking how to get a birth certificate, a vendor with bruised palms but no money for the clinic. She poured hibiscus tea into mismatched cups and listened, always listened, before helping however she could. Sometimes she created childcare rotations, sometimes she shared the contact of a fair vendor, sometimes she simply walked beside someone to face the bureaucracy together. In time, people stopped using her real name. They called her simply Mama. "I don't want anyone to feel as lost as I once did," she told Ibrahim one evening. Her health improved with her purpose. At her next checkup, Dr. Aminata smiled. Food and medicine help, but purpose that heals fastest. At their dinners, Ibrahim wrote down every story his mother shared: families denied IDs, clinics that closed too early, landlords pushing the poor to the street. He carried those notes into cabinet meetings. "Economic growth means nothing if families are falling apart," he told his ministers. He read their real stories aloud until the council agreed: clinics to stay open longer, rent aid funds, mobile ID teams in markets and mosques. He made it clear, my mother's care comes from me, not the state. But protecting families is the state's duty. Though he never mentioned her by name in public, her voice was in all his speeches. At her kitchen stove, she smiled when she heard him speak on the radio about love, unity, and family. The impact grew across Burkina Faso and beyond. Families searched for one another through churches, schools, and social records. Social media filled with reunions, brothers, sisters, mothers, children. Ordinary citizens, not politicians, rebuilding ties through persistence. The woman who once begged in the dust now lived with dignity and purpose. The son who once longed for her hand now ruled with a steadier heart, shaped daily by her strength. One evening, neighborhood elders came to her door. They placed a white scarf on her shoulders, blessing her as mother of the community. Ibrahim bowed his head and knelt before her. Later, as he walked her to the door, he whispered, "Mama, you taught me leadership must start with love and humility."
"I will never forget where I came from."
She squeezed his fingers. "Good," she said gently, "and keep walking with your people. And don't forget, come for dinner Wednesday." He laughed softly, promised he would, and stepped into the night. No convoy, no sirens, just a son walking the quiet road home. True leadership is not about power or speeches. It is about love, humility, and remembering where you came from. A nation heals when its leaders honor their families and fight for the dignity of every home. No matter how far life separates us, reconciliation is possible.
Love, sacrifice, and humility can rebuild what hardship tried to destroy.
If this story touched you, write "God bless President Traoré" in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of hope and change. And turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. Thank you for supporting this journey. Every comment, every share spreads light where there was once darkness. Stay blessed and see you soon.